Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to our explainer on what is absolutely, without a doubt, one of the most fascinating biological systems you possess. I'm talking about the vagus nerve. Now, if you've been following health, wellness, or biohacking trends lately, you know this term gets thrown around a lot. But today, we're cutting through all that noise. We are looking strictly at the hard science of vagus nerve stimulation and the incredible health benefits it offers. I want you to just imagine this for a second. What if your body had a literal hidden off switch for stress and inflammation? Sounds totally like science fiction, right? But as we're going to see today, it is absolute physiological fact. This hidden off switch is exactly what vagus nerve stimulation, or VNS, aims to flip, offering some truly profound benefits for both our physical and mental health. So here's our roadmap for the explainer. Number one, we'll meet your vagus nerve. Number two, we'll cover the FDA-approved medical treatments. Number three, we're going to unpack the anti-inflammatory reflex. Number four, we'll look at stress, sleep, and mood. And finally, number five, we'll decode how VNS devices actually work. All right, let's get started with section one, meet your vagus nerve, the mind-body highway. So, the word vagus actually comes from the Latin word for wandering, and honestly, it is perfectly named. It's your 10th cranial nerve, and it literally wanders from your lower brainstem all the way down through your neck, into your chest, and deep into your abdomen, connecting to the heart, the lungs, and the gut along the way. To understand why this matters so much, we have to look at your autonomic nervous system. You've got the sympathetic branch, that's your fight or flight response, designed to fire you up, and then you have the parasympathetic branch, your rest and digest, recovery system. The vagus nerve is the main physical driver of this parasympathetic network. It is quite literally the biological brake pedal that counteracts your body's stress response. Now, what's really wild is the direction of the traffic on this neural highway. You'd probably naturally think the brain is doing all the talking, right? Just sending commands down to the body. But actually, 80% of the vagus nerve fibers run upward. That means your brain is receiving a massive, continuous stream of information from your gut, your heart, and your organs. It's a huge feedback loop, and altering the signals on this highway can literally change how your brain functions. Let's transition over to section two, FDA-approved medical treatments, the clinical heavyweights. I want to make it super clear right off the bat that this isn't just some modern wellness fad. We are talking about established clinical heavyweights here. Long before consumer wearables were a thing, VNS involved a surgically implanted pulse generator in the chest, acting very much like a pacemaker, but for the brain. Since 1997, invasive VNS has been FDA approved to treat severe epilepsy, using electrical pulses to alter the chaotic brain patterns that cause seizures. It's also approved for treatment-resistant depression, where it helps regulate mood-altering neurotransmitters like serotonin. And most recently, it's been approved as an absolutely incredible tool for stroke rehabilitation. Just take a look at this number, 47. To put that into perspective, in a clinical study of stroke survivors experiencing upper limb weakness, 47% of patients achieved clinically meaningful improvements in their arm's strength and function when vagus nerve stimulation was paired with physical therapy. That is literally 2 to 3 times greater improvement than those receiving physical therapy alone. It just goes to show the sheer rehabilitative power of tapping into this nerve. Moving right along to section 3, the anti-inflammatory reflex, breaking the immune system. So, the crucial point is, the vagus nerve doesn't just regulate your mood and your heart rate, it directly controls your immune system's inflammatory response. This brings us to a monumental discovery by neurosurgeon Dr. Kevin Tracy. He explains the mechanism so perfectly, saying, "It is like stepping on the brakes in your car. You can slow down the amount of inflammation for patients with chronic inflammatory conditions." You see, when the body perceives a threat, it releases inflammatory cells. But sometimes, especially with autoimmune diseases, that immune response gets stuck in overdrive. Let's walk through exactly how the body pumps those brakes. In biology, this is known as the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. Step 1, a VNS device is activated, which gently stimulates the nerve. Step 2, the nerve releases a really powerful neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Step 3, that acetylcholine binds to receptors on your immune cells, successfully inhibiting the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are the very molecules that drive inflammation in the first place. It is a direct, measurable, biological chain reaction. And because VNS accelerates the resolution of inflammation through this exact pathway, we are now seeing highly promising clinical trials for debilitating autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and inflammatory bowel disease. We're literally talking about using targeted electricity rather than traditional pharmaceuticals to safely turn down the dial on chronic inflammation. It's a massive breakthrough. Let's dive into Section 4, Stress, Sleep, and Mood. Everyday health benefits. Now, you might not have epilepsy or severe arthritis, but the exact same underlying biology is incredibly relevant to the everyday modern ailments that so many of us face. The easiest way to measure how well your vagus nerve is functioning day to day is through heart rate variability, or HRV. A higher HRV means your nervous system is flexible. It means your body is successfully shifting out of chronic fight or flight mode into a state of recovery. And studies consistently show that regular vagus nerve stimulation improves this exact biometric marker. When your vagal tone is high, it's a real game changer. You recover from stress faster, you sleep much deeper, and your emotions stay regulated. But thanks to our modern lifestyles, poor sleep, processed foods, and just constant low-grade anxiety, many of us suffer from chronically low vagal tone. This leaves us literally trapped in fight or flight mode, dealing with brain fog, fatigue, and even gut issues. Because remember, the vagus nerve is the direct communication highway to your digestive system. Let's move to our final section, Section 5, How VNS Devices Work, the Access Revolution. So how exactly are everyday consumers tapping into this clinical science without undergoing surgery? Well, there's been a fundamental shift in the technology. On one hand, we have traditional invasive VNS. These are the surgical chest implants aimed at severe clinical conditions, carrying high medical costs. On the other hand, we have the booming new market of transcutaneous VNS, or TVNS. These are non-invasive, accessible consumer devices. They send gentle, targeted electrical pulses right through the surface of your skin to reach the vagus nerve. This makes nervous system regulation highly accessible for everyday stress reduction, sleep improvement, and general wellness. There are two primary pathways these non-invasive devices use. The first is auricular stimulation, where devices like the NeuroSim, Neuropod, or Nuvana Zine clip onto a specific part of your ear called the tragus, which is just incredibly dense with vagus nerve endings. The second pathway is cervical stimulation. Devices like Pulsetto or Travaga are placed directly against the side of your neck, targeting the main trunk of the nerve as it travels down from the brain. Both of these form factors have shown real effectiveness in different applications. Now, it's definitely worth noting that not all consumer devices rely on direct electrical pulses. There's a whole world of alternative sensory approaches out there. The Apollo Neuro, for example, uses specific low-frequency vibrations worn on your wrist or ankle to passively tone the nervous system. Then you have the Sensate, which rests on your chest, using infrasonic sound waves that travel through bone conduction. And there are even cutting-edge devices like Sona, which reads your real-time biometrics, like your heart rate, and actually use AI to adapt the stimulation pattern dynamically. But regardless of whether you're using electricity, vibration, or sound, the golden rule remains exactly the same. Consistency is key. You can't just use a device once and expect a permanent biological fix. Most clinical studies and device guidelines suggest that you really need 15 to 30 minutes of daily use over several weeks to truly build that vagal tone and see statistically significant shifts in your autonomic nervous system. It is a daily conditioning habit. It's much like going to the gym, but you're doing it for your brain and your body's recovery systems. Which leaves us with this final thought. We've mapped out the mind-body highway, we've seen the incredible clinical breakthroughs in inflammation and brain health, and we've explored the devices making this science accessible to all of us. The power to actively control our recovery, improve our sleep, and manage our daily stress is quite literally at our fingertips. So with the science of the vagus nerve rapidly unlocking, how will you hack your own nervous system? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.